Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. So our today's topic is factoring trinomials. To factor a trinomial in the form of above, you must find two integers that multiply to give you C and add up to B. So I'm going to explain what's this. The first, in the trinomial, it has three terms. The first term should be a squared term, and the second term should have an x squared. The second term should be x with the exponent of 1, and the constant, there should be no exponent. If any trinomial is in this form, then you can factor them by using this method. And this method is, look for the two integers that multiply to get this C, and those two numbers, when you add those two integers, they should end up with this B. Okay, so let's try that, and those should be integers. Integer should meaning positive or negative. Factor the following trinomials, check your answers by volume. So let's get started. Now I can see this is a trinomial three term. The first one is a squared term, second one has the same variable with power of 1, and third term has no exponent. So the coefficient here is 1, the coefficient here is B, and the constant is this 12. A is 1, B is 7, and C is 12, as I can say. Sorry, B and C, there is no A, so it's okay. B and C. So two integers that multiply and gives you positive 12. So I know my two numbers that multiplies and give me positive 12 are 1 times 12 is 12, 4 times 3 is 12, and 6 times 2 is 12. Okay, so I'm gonna write here 1, it's 12, right? 1 times 12 is 12, right? And 6 times 2 is 12, and 3 times 4 is 12. I said integers, so it could be positive 3. So here I have positive 3 and positive 4, positive 6 and positive 2, positive 1 and positive 12. You can also have positive 1 and negative 12, but it will not give you positive 12, right? Or you can have negative 3 times negative 4. It also gives you positive 12, right? You have to take all the options. Now what actually makes you look for the correct option is, which two integers add up and give you positive 7? Which two integers add up and give you positive 7? Multiply gives you 12, and those two add up give you 7. I can see 6 times 2 is 12, but I add 6 and 2, I do not get 7. 1 times 12 is 12. If I add 1 and 12, I don't get 7. But here if I see 3 times 4 is 12, and if I add 3 and 4, I get 7. Right? So this will be my correct option. These are the two factors. Okay, now how is it works? So when you have a trinomial, you're going to make two parentheses next to each other. We have to have two binomials. Okay, now the first one will always be the variable, which is x squared, x here and x here, because when I FOIL it, I will get x times x as x squared. Okay, and what comes to the right of these is this 3 and 4, because when I multiply 3 and 4, I get 12, and when I add 3 and 4, I get 7. So when I multiply, I should get 12, positive 12, and when I should add, I should get a positive 7. So what are those two? Positive 3 and positive 4. Don't forget those signs, okay? So x plus 3 and x plus 4. You can also write x plus 4 and x plus 3, doesn't make a difference. You can FOIL, you will get x times x is x squared, x times 4 is 4x, 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 4 is 12. So you will get x squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 12, which will combine and give you x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay, so this is the final answer. Now let's do this one. This one, h squared plus 9h plus 18. So I know the first one is squared, the second one is without h with exponent 1, and the third one is no constant, only constant, no variable. So the format is, I'm going to write two parentheses here, make two parentheses, The first one, because it's h squared, so I'm going to write h here and h here, because h and h multiplies and gives the h squared. What comes here, we have to check. So two numbers multiply to give you c. Two numbers multiply, this is c, okay? So two numbers which gives me positive 18, and when you add them, it should give me 9. So let's write all the numbers. When you multiply, I should get 18. I get 1 times 18 is 18. Positive 1 times positive 18. I should get positive 18, okay? Positive, not negative. Okay, positive 9 times positive 2 gives me 18. And I get 6. Positive 6 times positive 3 gives me 18. Is there any other way which can give me 18, positive 18? Yes, negative 6 times negative 3 equals to 18. Negative 9 times negative 2 equals to 18. Negative 1 times negative 18 equals to 18. But as if I add them, I want a positive number. So this is not going to help, right? Negative 6 plus negative 3 is negative 9. And I don't want negative 9. I want positive 9. So this will not help me. Now, 1 plus 18 is 18. 9 plus 2. Oh, 1 plus 18 is 19. 9 plus 2 is 11. 6 plus 3 is 8. 9. So when I multiply, I should get 18. And when I add those two numbers, I should get this middle term, B. So the correct one is this one, 6 and 3. So the two numbers that I'm going to write here is positive 6 and positive 3. Okay, you can check by foiling. Now let's do question number 7. N squared term, n with the power of 1, and then the constant term. So the first step, always make two parentheses. The first one would be n, because it's n squared, so n times n will give me n squared. Now, c here is negative 18. So I want two numbers that when I multiply, I should end up with negative 18. Okay? So, negative 1 times 18 gives me negative 18. Negative 6 times 3 gives me negative 18, or negative 3 times 6 gives me negative 18, either or, okay? It could be either negative 6 times 3, or it could be the negative 3 times 6. They both end up with negative 18. And what else? Negative 9 times 2 gives me negative 18. Negative 2 times 9 gives me negative 18. So we have so many options. But when which numbers we add gives me positive 3. I can see here. Negative 1 plus 18 is 17. Negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. But negative 3 plus 6 is 3, right? So I'm going to choose this option. Okay, so my two binomials would be n minus 3 and n. This is a positive 6, okay? Plus 6. You can also write n plus 6 first, and n minus 3 doesn't make any difference. But these are the two binomials, okay? Now, let's do one more like this. C squared plus 4c minus 45. So what is c squared? First check that it is in the form of c squared. This is with c, with no c. So I want two numbers. So the first thing I should do here is c and c. Now two numbers, two integers. I'm always forcing you on integers. So two integers multiplies gives you negative 45. I want negative 45. I get negative 45 by 9 times, 5 times, 9 times 5 is 45, right? So I can write negative 9 times 5 is 45, or 9 times negative 5 is 45. And I can also get 45 by 3 times 15, negative 3 times 15, or negative 15 times 3. But keeping in mind the two numbers, there could be more options. 45 times 1 is 45. But I'm looking for an option which gives me negative 45 when I multiply, but it should give me a positive 4 when I add those numbers. So if I add negative 9 and 5, it gives me negative 4. But if I add 9 and negative 5, it gives me a positive 4, right? So this will be my correct option for the binomials. I can write C, because it's positive 9 and negative 5, right? Positive 9 and negative 5, I'm going to write C plus 9 and C minus 5. You can always check your answers. Now let's do this one when both are negative. K squared minus 12k minus 64. The first step would be k, right? And I want the numbers, when I multiply, I should get a negative 64, and when I add, I should get a negative 12. So negative 64, how do I get negative 64? Okay, negative 8 times positive 8 gives me negative 64, and yeah, 16 times 4, yeah, 16 times negative 4 gives me a negative 64, or negative 16 times negative 4, positive 4 gives me a negative 64, right? Right? You need to know your multiples here very, 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 very good. Like, you should be really good in your multiples. Okay. So now I want two numbers. When I add, I should get a negative 12. If I add negative 8 and 8, I get a 0. Next 16 and negative 4, I add, I get 12. But I need a negative 12. So I'm going to choose this option, negative 16 and a positive 4. So negative 16 and a positive 4 gives me a negative 12. Okay, so this is how you are going to factor. I hope you understand the concept. Let me do one more, and then you will be good. Okay, so now let's do question number 29. It says m squared and so let's do this one. X squared plus 13xy plus 42y squared. Now here in this case, what are we going to do in this case is both the first term and the last term are the squared term, right? So I know that, okay, so my first term will be x times x because it gives me x squared, and my last term also gives me y squared. So whatever I add or subtract, there should be y with that because it has to be multiplied and it should give me a y squared. Okay, so let's do the same thing. 42, I should get a positive 42, and when I add or subtract, when I add the two integers, I should get a 13. So it is, what are the two numbers which can give me a 42? So let's do 24 times 2 is 40, 21 times 2 is 42, and 6 times 7 is 42, right? So yeah, 6 times 7 is 42. So when I add 6 and 7, I get what? 13? Yes. So it should be x plus 6 and x plus 7. And because the last term, when it multiplies, you can see 6 times 7 should be 42, y times y should be y squared. Okay? Now, look for a GCF first and then factor the trinomial. So whenever we are looking for the factoring part, always look for the GCF first. Okay, so the GCF first. Here I can see that 4 is the common factor, greatest common factor which can factor. So I'm going to factor this 4 out. I get n squared plus 3n plus 2. Okay, first GCF. Now you can see this parentheses is in the form of n squared plus 3n plus 2. Now I can factor this trinomial. Okay, so keeping this 4 aside here, I should have two factors where I should write n. Okay, now 2. Two numbers multiply gives me 2, and when I add those two, it should give me a 3. How is that possible? So it will be, don't forget that we always have a magic number 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so when I add this, I get a 3, right? I don't have to move forward. So plus 2, make sure it's a positive 2 and positive 1. Plus 2, plus 1. So my final factors are these. Let's do one more. This one. Let's factor out 5 here because I can see 5 is a greatest common factor. I get x squared minus 3x and minus 28, right? Now let's look, this is x squared, this is x term, this is a constant term. Let's look for the, we should have two binomials. 5 should be in front, don't skip 5. This should be x, this should be x. Now, negative 28. Two numbers when multiply gives me negative 28. When I add gives me 3. So the thing comes to my mind straight because now I'm used to it. I know 7 and 4 is 28. But I need a negative 28, right? And I need a negative 3. Don't look at that one. We are doing this. We are factoring this part. So I know I need a negative 3. So I am going to do negative 7 times 4, which gives me a negative 28. And when I add negative 7 and 4, I get a negative 3. So this will be my correct option. But if I choose 4 and negative 4 and 7, it will give me a negative 28, but it will end up with a positive 3. I want a negative 3. That's why I chose negative 7. I will take a negative with a bigger number so that when I add, I get a negative 3. So it gives me x minus 7 and x plus 4. This is the final thing. I hope you understand the concept. Assalamu alaikum.